I'm sorry I missed everyone this last Sunday night. It was quite smoky here in Durango because we had a big forest fire, and I went down to see the great saint Amachi, down in Santa Fe. And I was only planning on staying for just a day, but I ended up staying for 5 days, and so I apologize that I missed you all this last Sunday evening. So let's just take a moment and let everyone get into the room. So we'll just take a moment and of course, as always, I'm going to invite you just to relax. As you're joining us here on Sunday evening and really settling down and coming into this place of peace. And so, yes, it looks like everyone's arriving. And so one of the things that Amma was saying, if any of you don't know Amachi, she's a great, probably the most enlightened person on the planet, an incredible humanitarian. When you look at her, it doesn't even seem as if you're looking at a human being. She is literally God in human form. And so it's quite amazing if you get a chance to see her. She's doing a summer tour of the United States, and then I think she might go to Europe next and Japan. But if you get a chance, it's well worth it. I've been seeing her for 20-something years now, and anytime you walk in the room, she tends to rent like a giant hotel ballroom. But when you walk in the room with her, you'll just feel your heart chakra just exploding. I took my mother, who's a devout Catholic, and the first time she went, as soon as I opened the door, my mother just burst into tears. There was just so much love, and she felt her heart chakra just exploding open. And so one of the great things that Amma is speaking about right now is she's speaking about the state of the world, that right now the mind of nature and the human mind are in radically agitated states. And so you see this, if you look on, I was looking on Facebook recently, and I see that there's so many people arguing on Facebook. There's whole campaigns that are just made up, spreading lies. It's hard to discover what the truth is. There's all kinds of media organizations and false media organizations, like people who are setting up YouTube channels looking like the news and just spreading things that are not true, and it's causing people to fight, to argue with each other. And we must remember that at our core, the core of our being is peace, is love, is divinity. This is what we are when we are at our core. And so when we step away from our core, when we hop up into our mind, or we get into an agitated state, we can quickly find ourselves arguing with friends, with family, with people who we've never met on the internet. It's so divisive right now in our country. It's so divisive in this world. And in a sense, nature is revolting. Nature said, I've had enough. So in Hawaii, there's volcanoes erupting. here in the West, there's these great forest fires. Last year in California, there's tremendous fires. There's been flooding. And so one of the things that we can do as beings of light is to get centered, is to come back to our heart, come back to our truth, and say, no. Say, no, I'm not going to live in an agitated way. I'm not going to live in a way where I'm attacking people online. I'm not going to live in a way that's deeply divided. I'm going to live from peace. I'm going to live from my true nature. And so it's a conscious choice to say no. No to that old, obsolete way of being in the world, our egoic way of being. It's a radical choice to say no to the fight or flight response. And then to take a deep breath and say yes to love. Take a deep breath and say, I'm going to sit here and breathe. I'm going to listen. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to choose to be kind. Choose to be kind. Behind me I have this great, it's a Tibetan Buddhist thangka, which is like a big, like these wall coverings. And in the center of the thangka is this, it looks like, what most of us know Kali to be in the yogic tradition. Kali, oftentimes she's thought of as this fierce force that brings death and destruction, but really what she does is she tries to cut out our ego. And so in the world of Tantra and true Tantra, we work with the darkness within us. We work with our ego. We meet it with love, wisdom, and clarity, so that we can transform our humanity into that which is good, that which is holy, so we can be a movement of goodness here on planet Earth. That's what the tradition of Tantra is truly about. It's being willing to breathe into the fire, breathe into the intensity, breathe into the difficulty, into these agitated states of consciousness, and say, I'm willing to love here. I'm willing to breathe here. I'm willing to be patient here. I'm willing to find peace in this time of darkness, in this time of division. I'm willing to find my center. I'm willing to reconnect with the beauty and the innocence of my own heart space. And so from this place, I invite you just to really settle into your body. And let us practice together now for a few minutes. So I invite you to close your eyes, to sit in a way where your spine is erect. And you just breathe, deep, full belly breaths, where you give yourself permission to just drop in right here, right now. Maybe for the first time this day, just to really feel, to open up and feel this quiet sense of divinity that you are. And so if there's any mental activity going on in your head, I invite you, let's just drop out of that place. Take some deep, full, relaxing breaths and give yourself permission just to totally let go. Let go of the tension. Let go of the fight. Let go of the agitation. Let go of this division. that we're plugged into through the collective unconsciousness. And see if you can find just a place of peace within you, a place of quietude. So we're taking deep, full breaths, feeling our feet on the floor, your butt in the chair, on the cushion, your spine straight. And just breathing and getting in touch with that quiet yet profound space of innocence, which hears the sound of my voice, which notices the thoughts just floating through your consciousness, which notices the various sensations in your body. And so I invite you just to breathe, to feel, to let go. And just to be here. I invite you to notice that which is within you, which is undivided. That which is just silently witnessing. Silently witnessing this life, this world. Silently noticing the rise and the fall of your breath. Silently noticing different sensations in your body lighting up. And so with your eyes closed, I'm going to invite you just to notice all your cells coming alive. You can imagine like 10 million little sparklers lighting up the wholeness of your body, coming online. And so you're feeling this radiance in your feet and your legs and your pelvis. This radiance is awakening in your hara, your lower belly, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the shoulders, the arms, the hands, the space of the third eye, the crown chakra. And then I invite you to join me in just imagining, just right across your eyebrows, there's a triangle that goes up through the center of your forehead and reaches up to heaven. Reaches up to heaven. And then I invite you also to simultaneously imagine this like a grand, a gigantic triangle reaching down into you from heaven. And so being a human being is living as this intersection of being both human and divine. And so I invite you to keep your attention here in the third eye. You can even feel it coming more alive. Feeling yourself flooded with light and grace. And I invite you to know that you are loved. Know that you are held. Know that you are divine. I have angels just literally screaming at me right now. Let them know. Let them know they are holy. Let them know they are divine. And so I invite you to let go into the space of the third eye. Let go into the space of grace. Allow yourself to be flooded. Flooded with light, flooded with love, flooded with this absolute beauty. We all know we could use more grace. And so let yourself, let your body be a conduit of grace. And so I invite you just simply to open more and more. And so you're having just a gentle sense of concentration right here in your third eye. And just opening energetically opening to God, energetically opening to grace, and inviting this flow of divinity to pour into you, inviting yourself to be blessed in this moment by peace, by a greater sense of love. I invite you to say yes to God, yes to life, yes to grace. And so we're opening our hearts, we're opening our body, and we're giving, we're surrendering. Anyone, anything we need to forgive, we're letting it go. Any sense of agitation, we're letting it go. And simultaneously we're saying yes. Yes, God. Yes, grace. Yes, divinity. And so we're just opening ourselves to this direct transmission and giving ourselves full permission just to let go of that which has afflicted us, to smile, to breathe deeply, and to let go. To let go. Life is too short for us to argue, for us to fight with people we don't know. Life is too short for us to believe thoughts in our heads that aren't true. You are all beings of love and light. In your nature is this absolute peace. Your original nature is absolute silence. Can you step back into the depth of your third eye? Can you step back into the depth of your heart and really begin to discover this beauty and this innocence which you are? And you just let go and say, yes, I'm willing to open. I'm willing to receive my own true nature. I'm willing to receive the hugeness of divinity which wants to pour into you right now. Let yourself be flooded in this grace. It's so beautiful. So from this place, I invite you just to look into your heart, look into your humanity and see, is there anyone in this moment you need to forgive? Is there anything you need to let go of? Is there any thought that you're believing that's too heavy, that's really not true? Can you give yourself permission as to step back and just to let go of it all? And join me in simply receiving this grace. Join me in being fully human and fully divine. Minus all that karmic weight that we tend to carry around and we tend to create. Can you be humble like a child and simply let go? Simply let go. Because there truly is so much love here. There are angels all around you who want nothing more than to love you, to hold you, to bless you. We literally walk around in this grand space of silence and serenity, yet most of us miss it. And so can you open to the spaciousness, to the silence that's right here, right now, and say yes. Yes to the space of peace, which is always present. Can you drop fully out of mind and into the heart and simply say yes to love, yes to peace, yes to truth. And so I invite you to continue to sit in this meditative way and simply receive. Receive this grace that's here. Receive this love that's here. Receive. And so in order to be receptive, we have to literally just take this backward step into the heart and say yes. The human ego, it's eternally saying no. No to life. But I invite you in this moment to say yes. Deep, full belly breaths, just breathing, feeling, and letting go. Letting go. And so, I encourage you to just sit here, to rest here. And just breathe. Just breathe. Just receive what's coming forward. And so I'm going to transition now into the Dharma talk. And of course, if you have a question, you can raise your hand or you can type one below. I have a number of emails and questions that I received this week. And I apologize again to those of you whose questions I said I was going to get to last week, but then I ended up on this retreat. But one of the things that I learned, that Amma reminded me of, when I was in her presence, is just what's possible for us as humans. So she would sit for 12 hours giving darshan, at these particular meetings in Santa Fe. 12 hours sitting and hugging, embracing thousands and thousands of individuals. So if any of you don't know Amma, she's the hugging saint from South India. She's won all kinds of awards, from the UN and humanitarian awards. And she's literally hugged 30 million people. And so she was just this young girl who grew up in India in dirt poor poverty. Her parents literally treated her like she was the family slave because she was born with really dark skin. She literally looks like Kali, the goddess Kali. But she was born in this little fishing village in South India, in Kerala. Dirt poor, completely uneducated, never went to school. And now she just spends her life literally embracing, hugging, traveling the world, creating great charities. She has countless orphanages and schools, and she created a university and hospitals and clinics. And it is so amazing what this woman's done. She's about 62 or 63 years old now. She's, maybe 5 foot tall, so she's really, really short. But when you walk into the room, when you look into her eyes, you literally feel as if you're looking directly at God. The power, the grace, and the love that comes through her is unbearable. It's so intense. It's so brilliant. She literally takes your breath away. And so when I watched her, I saw what is possible. What is possible for a human being? One time I saw her in India and she was hugging for something like 22 hours. There's maybe 25,000 people that came that evening, and she stays up all night and into, well into the next day. 22 hours hugging straight. She didn't get up once, doesn't go to the restroom, doesn't stop to eat. I think she barely sipped some water. And it's amazing to watch this level of love and this level of divinity. You see it just flowing into the room, opening people's hearts, touching people in a deep and profound way. And so we all have hearts. And at our centers is this incredible innocence. And so this is our job here on planet Earth. Sometimes people write me these questions. They say, Greg, what am I supposed to do with myself in this world? You are supposed to love, share the truth, be peaceful, spread peace, be kind. This is what we are here to do. This is what we are here to do on planet Earth. And so one of the swamis are her, she has these monks who hang out with her. They've been with her for, decades. And they were giving the talk because she'll talk and they'll translate, but she doesn't speak English. When you hear her voice, it literally sounds like this cosmic presence is coming into the room. But what one of the swamis was saying about Amma is that there's two kinds of enlightenment. One of them is unconditional and the other is conditional. Now, most people, they live, if they do reach enlightenment, they have a conditional enlightenment, which basically means, they just want the peace for themselves. And so they live in a one-dimensional way where their enlightenment is just about them. And so they'll sit in a cave. Maybe they're praying for all of humanity, but they're enjoying their own private place of peace. And Amma took the swamis to go visit with different, enlightened masters in India. Some who just sat in caves in the Himalayas, who lived in the beach and who didn't talk, they didn't share. They didn't give. They just sat, in these states of samadhi. But then there's, this multi-dimensional type of enlightenment is what the swamis were saying. And that's what Amma is, where she lives in samadhi. She lives in a constant state of meditation, but she's eternally feeding the poor. Embracing the world. Embracing the world. And so, of course, I come from this second school, the multi-dimensional school, where we're not here just to wake up and to spend time, in peace for our own sake and sanity. We're here to give, to share, to love, to embrace. But, what must happen first is you must learn to love yourself fully first. If you don't love yourself fully first, then it's hard to give, it's hard to share. And so your cup has to be overflowing. And so, like I was speaking about in the meditation, when we concentrate here in the third eye, and imagine this triangle, and it goes right across the brow, but the triangle is facing upward towards God, and you're inviting grace into you. And then you envision this great triangle coming down, flooding your body with grace. We all need this love. And so the invitation here is simply to open and to receive this grace. Let this grace touch your heart. Let your angels help you. If you're a good Buddhist and you're not interested in God, Then you worship the silence. You open to the silence and you allow yourself to be held in this peace. You allow yourself to be held in this grace. You get in touch with your heart and you say yes to that which is innately good about you. Yes. Okay, beautiful. And so let's see here. I have a number of questions. And of course, if any of you have one, you're welcome to ask for the mic or to, to bring it forward. And so here's a question, from Jess. She writes, Craig, about a year ago, I awoke from a month-long ayahuasca retreat and have been spending the last year integrating, but I'm not working and I'm running out of money. Lately, I've been having old conflicts arise within my mind with my parents and feeling bullied and victimized. I'm waiting for a sign or opportunity or inspiration to show up, to help me go back to work. Nothing is showing up, though. And so I'm wondering, how shall I go forward? And so this is a very common thing on the path, is that individuals will wake up to their truth. But just because you wake up to the truth doesn't mean that automatically you'll have a job, you'll have money, that all your old conflicts will be sorted out. It doesn't mean that. People have this idea with spiritual awakening that you wake up once and then, everything becomes perfect and, you just get to sit there on some lotus flower. But it's not like that. Waking up is simply getting your foot in the door. It's literally the beginning of the path. People say, well, there's all these years before. Yes, that's included too, but when you truly wake up, you're just at the beginning. When you wake up, you can see clearly. And so because you can see clearly, and because, your body is starting to become literally enlightened, meaning it's full of light, you'll be able to see the darkness more so. And so if you have old wounds, the teaching is always the same. You meet them with love. You meet them with love. So if your parents weren't fully there, if they didn't love you, you do the hard work that your parents did not do. You embrace that little girl or that little boy inside. You meet your humanity with love. And so if we look at what Amma does all day long, literally every day, she's hugging, feeding the poor, teaching the Dharma, meditating, chanting. And so we still do this. Whether we had a powerful awakening experience on an ayahuasca retreat or not, the path is the same. There's this old saying in Zen, the Dharma is good in the beginning, in the middle, and the end. And so life is inviting you to learn to unconditionally love yourself. To unconditionally love yourself. And as you do so, part of unconditionally loving yourself is the willingness to listen to your heart. When you listen to your heart, what you'll find is your heart will tell you the right career. It will lead you in the right direction. I can remember I was sitting once and I was quite poor and I was looking for God to give me a sign. God, give me a sign, show me the direction. And my heart was screaming at me, telling me what to do, telling me very clearly. But I was waiting for someone with $1 million to come and put it in my bank account. I was looking for someone to come save me. Your heart will save you if you listen. Your heart is the voice of truth. And so when you're in pain, you'll often, and you feel into your heart, you will often hear your emotional heart. But when I'm saying your heart will save you, I mean your true heart. That's the voice that's deep and still within you. And so I encourage you just to listen to this voice. And in the meantime, I'll quote the Buddha, and we do what's wise, do what's practical. So you just do what makes sense. God told me about, maybe 10 or 12, I think it was probably 12 years ago. God told me, teach. And so I started teaching. But I had no money. And so so life told me, and go get a second job. And so I had a second job for many years. And that was doing what's practical, but I didn't give up on my dream. And I didn't give up listening to the truth within me. Sometimes I would teach and no one would come. I'd sit there quietly and I would ask God, what should I do? And she simply said, teach. Sit, open, receive. And so I'd sit in an empty room and just receive this grace. Receive this grace. And just let it overflow through me. But like I said, I had to do what was practical too. I had that second job. And so I had to go out and work hard. Doing something I didn't love. And sometimes when we do that, we actually send a message to our body and to our humanity. When you're willing to go out and work hard for yourself and support yourself, you send a message to your body that I love myself enough to get a job. I love myself enough to take care of my body and not just sit on the couch and wait for someone to come save me. I love and respect myself enough to take good care of myself. And so there's all kinds of ways we can love ourselves. One way is just breathing love, into old wounds. Another way is getting in touch with our true nature. And the third way is doing what's practical, doing what's wise, taking good care of our humanity. Sometimes loving ourselves means going to yoga class, or getting a massage, or choosing to take a little time off work. Just take a little time off work. And so, yes, it's a beautiful question. Something that I get a couple times a week. Okay, beautiful. Here's a question from a fella in India. Let me see if I can get your name right. It's Vashavi asks, the person who is practicing yoga for awakening of Kundalini, should they eat vegetarian food only? How does food affect our practice? In regards to diet, I'm gonna invite you again. Any question is to ask your heart. See what's in your heart. See what's true in your heart. I personally, when I was quite young, I just heard the word vegetarian and automatically this became one, just something lit up. But there's no rule that says if you eat meat, you won't be enlightened, you won't awaken your Kundalini. The Dalai Lama, has tried many times to be a vegetarian and has been unsuccessful because his body gets quite sick, and so he needs to eat meat. At the core of every, almost every great religious tradition is the teaching of thou shalt not kill. But I invite you to feel into your heart and see what's true for you. How far do I take it? What's true for you? When you look at animals, can you love them? Can you eat low on the food chain? Can you eat a plant-based diet? Of course, it's more healthy to eat a plant-based diet. And so in regards to food, all food has a vibration. Anything we put in our body, anything in the world has a vibration. So like when I was visiting with Amma, the vibration was just overwhelming love. Overwhelming love. You just feel it in the room. And so anything you connect with has a vibration. And of course, I encourage you, if you want to live a life of love, to connect with that which is loving, connect with goodness, with kind, with friendliness, with compassion. You know, in this day and age, our whole planet needs us to eat lower on the food chain, just because of the rainforests that are being cut down for meat production. The rivers and oceans are being polluted from eating too much meat from the factory farms. Our oceans are overfished, so our whole planet could benefit. Our whole planet is crying and asking us, can you eat lower on the food chain? One of the things that I love to do in the spring, summer, and fall is to have a garden. And when you're out there in the garden, you're connecting with the plants. You're feeling their innocence, their aliveness. You're connecting with nature. And so one of the things that happens when we come into nature, when we connect with nature, we feel more alive. We feel more alive. But if you're, hanging out at the drive-thru of Kentucky Fried Chicken, eating a bucket of chicken, you're probably feeling heavy. The vibration is thick. It's, this vibration of just consumption and waste and not caring about the environment or the world. We must remember, we are all one, literally. I read this last year that there's, like a giant, like plasmic ball of plastic just floating in the ocean that's bigger than the state of Texas. There's something wrong with that. That's not how we need to be living. We need to be living in a way where we are conscious of everything we do. Our diet, our words, our speech, how we interact with each other, how much we consume. How much resources we use. We are all connected. One of the things that's going to help us as a planet, as a world, as a collective consciousness to heal is for more and more people to wake up to love, to wake up to truth. And when you have love and truth, you see clearly the way we are living is out of alignment. And so we must be willing to come into our heart and ask, what is my gift? How can I share in a way that's loving? How can I share in a way that's true? Can I open myself fully and let myself be guided by grace? Be guided by that which is higher. So yes, it's a beautiful question. But one of the things that happens is sometimes spiritual people, they get really stuck on these rules. I was at this Tibetan Buddhist center, Tara Mandala, and one of the individuals there asked the teacher, Jampa, the individual, asked Jampa, she said, when I go to sleep at night, which direction should my head face? And see, silly rules like that are irrelevant. A greater question is, how can I be kind? How can I be loving? Where is my shadow leading me? Where am I completely unconscious? Do you go to the store and, buy all kinds of food that were raised under inhumane conditions and it's full of packaging, and you get the plastic bags and then just throw it all away? Or do you have a consciousness about how you eat, how you live, what you drive, how you consume. Do you have a consciousness about what you consume? As far as media, there's so much just garbage right now on the internet. So many people fighting. And so instead of consuming garbage, I say one of the reasons Facebook is getting so popular is because people literally are going there to fight and to argue. But if we're on Facebook, can we go there and share love, share unity? Can we listen to our brothers and sisters? And can we share from the openness of our hearts? So yes. Okay, here's another question. Craig, can you please tell me what is a twin flame and does it really exist for each individual? And so, again, a funny thing happens when we fall in love. We really ask these questions. We get all excited about twin flames and soulmates and this and that. But most of it is just the energy of falling in love. Your job is to be yourself and to show up in a loving way in the world. We don't need to worry about twin flames and soulmates. Let your soulmate be God. Let your soulmate be your highest nature. And live from your truth. When you do so, you will attract someone else who will be living from their truth. So I wouldn't worry about twin flames or soulmates. If you want to share your life with someone, find someone who's good, who's kind, who's loving, who's supportive, who listens to you, who communicates, who has a similar spiritual nature, a similar spiritual path. I was speaking with someone earlier a couple days ago, and she got married. She was what's it called, a minister. And her husband wouldn't go to church with her. Her husband literally hated it that she was a minister and hated, didn't have a religious bone in his body. And it doesn't mean that relationship cannot work, but when there's such a division, when someone is giving their life to God, and the other person is giving their life to sitting there watching Fox News all day, there's a good chance it's not going to work out. And so if you are giving yourself to God, look for a partner who also wants to live in a similar way. And be loving. Be loving. This is your job in relationship. It's to love and to grow. So often we look at relationship as what can I get from the other? But it's your job is to be loving and to know that we're here growing together. That this person, whoever they are, whether they're my soulmate or twin flame, or whether they're someone who I hang out and disagree with often, can you look at them and see that they too are God, that they are a unique manifestation of God? This is what our world needs. You'll find you'll make more steps on the path when you begin to see that all of life is God. Literally. Okay. Here's a question from Alho. My Kundalini is awakening, and I feel a soothing sensation in the spine. When it reaches the brain, it's full of bliss. But after that, I feel like there's a fever in the brain. And so I stopped my practice. What do you suggest for that? Sometimes just sitting, it will be calm and awaken. And so yes, if you're on the path of Kundalini Yoga, or if your Kundalini has awoken, what you'll find is you'll have all kinds of spiritual experiences. And just because something gets intense in your mind, or intense, in the feeling world or the world of sensation, doesn't mean you need to stop. If you really want to let go into God, it's an intense thing. And so I'm not inviting you to push the energy, but you don't have to back away from it either. There's been many times when God has literally just taken my breath away, had me curled up in the fetal position because the light was so intense. It still happens, sometimes a couple times a week, I'll find myself just overwhelmed with a heat or a light or a brilliance. And so just let go into it. And so if it comes in a calm way, let go into the calm and just merge into that depth of silence. If it comes in an intensely brilliant way, open to that. And realize you are that. When any of us get in touch with the absolute, it's a terrifying experience. The great Krishnamurti said, he used to look out at his audiences. Big crowds of people would come and see him, and he'd look out at them and say, if you knew what I was really talking about, you wouldn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. He's talking about something immense. God is not some little thing. Spiritual awakening is not some little thing. It's a profoundly huge thing. It requires everything of you. It requires that you give everything. And so one of the things that we have to give is our idea around pain. What's tolerable? What's too much? The spiritual path is literally a path of saying, I'm willing to be so overwhelmed that I lose myself. And I die unto God. I die unto God. I die unto truth. I die unto bliss. I die unto light and peace. It's not a small thing. And so again, if you're doing Kundalini Yoga, I'm not talking about, running a bunch of energy or forcing things or, pushing the energy. But the idea on the spiritual path is to open and open more and more and more and surrender more and more and more. And there's going to be times when it pushes you past your limit. That's good. That means you're headed in the right direction. But if you look at what the ego is the ego is always negotiating. It says, okay, I like this much bliss, but not this much. Because this much, it makes me feel a little anxious. Or it feels, I can't handle it. The whole point, the whole purpose of spiritual awakening is to step into that which you cannot handle. Step into that which is greater. To let go into the fire of truth. And so it should burn up your political ideas. It should burn up old wounds. It should burn up, everyone you haven't forgiven. The fire of truth, it has no mercy. And yet when you really let go into it, it's eternally merciful. It's eternally merciful. And so one of the last things I wanted to talk about was, when I was down there visiting Amma, on my way there was a little church out in the middle of the desert in New Mexico. It's kind of southeast, I believe, of Espanola. There's this church. It's has a Spanish name. I can't remember it exactly, but it's called basically the Church of the Holy Dirt. Back in like the 1800s, there was these people walking across the desert, and they started to dig a hole, and they found this. They're going to create a church there. They found this cross, a 6-foot cross, there in the earth. So they said, "Oh, this is a miracle. This is a place. It's going to be a holy site." So they created this teeny little church, a little adobe church. And when you walk into it, into the cathedral, a little adobe cathedral, if that's the right term, but you feel such a love there, such a radiance, such a beauty. And then on the wall, there's just like these hundreds of pairs of crutches. People who have gone in there on crutches and left the crutches there. They tell you, take some of the dirt. There's like this hole in the ground, and you can take a little scoop of the, holy soil. You can rub it on your body where you feel afflicted, or you have a disease or a difficulty, and it's healing. But when you look around at this old Hispanic church, you see all these really brutal pictures of Jesus, on a cross with just blood just pouring out of him. And as a kid, I used to look at those. I used to think, why is that? Why do they show Jesus just bleeding? In such a way. And I used to hate those pictures until I learned about suffering, until I lived long enough. I realized I suffered so much here on planet Earth. And life can be hard. It can be difficult. But it's such a beautiful thing to see Christ, to feel his presence in this church. A little church way out in the middle of the desert. People coming from all over the United States and even different parts of the world visiting this church. And they're being blessed by his love, blessed by this presence. When you see the cross, it's really a reminder of, oh yeah, we suffer here on earth. It's hard, it's difficult. But there's this absolute love you can let go into despite the suffering. And the more you see that, the more the suffering begins to lessen. You begin to feel held in this light, held in this radiance. And your experience really begins to flip-flop. You begin to see that the world is actually good. The world is actually loving. The world is actually holy. That there's this absolute divinity everywhere. Absolute divinity everywhere. And suffering begins to become a thing of the past. But in order to live in this way, you must know love. You must love yourself. If you find yourself stuck in suffering, you must love yourself enough to know that there's another way. I need to step out of my mind. I need to step out of my mind and come into my heart and let go and forgive and heal. And reconnect with my true nature. Yes, thank you. It is. It's called the El Sanctuary de Chimayo in Chimayo, New Mexico. Yes, thank you for the reminder about the name of the church. I really wanted to call it the Sangre de Cristo, but that's the mountains that are there. Blood of Christ mountains are all around Santa Fe. And the reason they call it that is because at sunset, at sunrise, there's these wonderful purples and reds that shine all over the mountain ranges. It's so beautiful, so magical. So anyways, I want to thank you all for showing up this evening. Thank you all for being with me. Real quick reminder, I'm having a retreat here in Durango, August 17th through 19th. There's details on my website. I encourage you to look at that if you're interested in connecting in a deeper way. I want to thank everyone for the donations, those of you who have been mailing them in, and also through the PayPal link on my website. Thank you all so much, and feel so humbled to be here with you all. It's such a grace for us to come together in this way, be connected all over the world. So thank you all so much, and may peace be with you all. May all of you have a good night or good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Take good care. May peace be with you, and bless your hearts, each and every one of you.